Coming up on Locked On Bearcats, a recap of last night's game as the Bearcats beat SMU 77-60. And what I like, what I don't like about this men's basketball team and where they can go, how far they can go this season. All that coming up on Locked On Bearcats. Thank you very much for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. My name is Alex Frank, welcoming you to today's show as Cincinnati beat SMU last night 77-60. I think it's the most impressive win of the season. That was as good of a response as you are going to get from the Bearcats. Considering what happened on Saturday against Tulane when they did not play well in the first half, sure they rallied back, but this was a very, very important win for the Bearcats. They're now 11-4 on the season. They're 1-1 in AAC play, and they just beat an SMU team. By the way, their 10th straight win against the Bearcats, or SMU, excuse me. This is the kind of win that can generate momentum. It can build a whole lot of confidence. And just look at some of these numbers. 3 starters in double figures. David DeJulius led the way. He was fantastic. 22 points, was 7 of 15 from the field, 6 assists, 1 steal, only 1 turnover, 3 rebounds, 29 minutes of play. Micah Adams-Woods scored a career-high 17. 15 of those coming on threes, 5 of 8 from beyond the arc. Cincinnati was 11 of 29 beyond the arc. Adams-Woods had 3 assists. John Newman had 5 rebounds, 12 points, was 2 of 5 from 3, 3 assists. Jeremiah Davenport only scored 7 points, largely due to being in foul trouble. He still played 29 minutes. And they held SMU, who does have the ability to be a good shooting team, to just 30% shooting from the field. 8 of 27 from 3 were the Mustangs. Cincinnati shot 43.5% from the field. They were 12 of 14 from the line. They pulled down 13 offensive rebounds, 43 rebounds total. They dished out 20 assists. They forced 12 turnovers. And we can keep going on and on with the whole box score. It was just a really good offensive performance, smooth. Sure, they only scored 33 points in the second half as opposed to 44, but they led the entire game. It was tied for 1 minute of the 40 minutes total. The Bearcats led for the other 39 minutes. And when you have an opportunity to beat a team in SMU who came in with 8 straight wins. 8 straight wins. SMU was 11-3, 2-0 in AAC play. Then the heck with that. The Bearcats handled their business. They have not lost to SMU since the 2017 AAC championship game. So their dominance in this rivalry continues. They won't see the Mustangs for another 2 months. Other performers, by the way, Kendrick Davis, who was a problem coming in. Yes, he scored 16 points, but he had to attempt 18 shots to get there. Only 1 assist in 34 minutes of play. And SMU only had 2 other double-digit scorers. Cincinnati's other contributions came tonight from Victor Locken, who scored 7 points. Mason Madsen scored 5 points. Mike Saunders Jr. had 5 points, but 7 assists in 20 minutes of play. The Bearcats had 20 assists on 27 made buckets. And one thing I'll talk about coming up is this team's depth, this team's ability to come together and play hard as a team, a sum of their parts. Those are all things we saw in this game tonight. And we'll talk more about this this game next week. We'll talk more about the Memphis game that comes up on Sunday, which is the next game on the schedule. That's a road game. It's a 3:30 tip-off on ABC. And if the Bearcats are able to finish off the week with a road win in conference play, get to 12-4, 2-1 in conference play, then you're starting to feel better about this team. Maybe getting back to those NCAA tournament hopes. Because let's face it, you talk about NCAA tournament around here because A, we're used to talking about that, and B, because this team can maybe make a run at the NCAA tournament. 77-60, though, the Bearcats win. David DeJulius was phenomenal. If there's any alpha dog on this team, I think it would be him. And I've mentioned that before. Micah Adams-Woods, 17 points, lights out three-point shooting, 5 of 8 from beyond the arc, career night for him. Really good in a game that started late. You know, if you were watching the game on ESPN, you did not see the start of the game because the hockey game, the NHL game before it ran over. Just why, okay? You know, they didn't tell you what other channel would be on until the hockey game was over. And just these 9:30 games, I mean, they are long, man. I mean, I'm sorry. But nevertheless, great win for Cincinnati in conference play. Bounce back win, continuing their dominance over SMU. And you feel better about where this team is going. You feel better about certain players. You like what you're seeing from David DeJulius. You like what you're seeing from Micah Adams-Woods in his third season. And hopefully that this is just the start of something here. Up next, we'll take a look at this team in bigger picture. I haven't talked about them a whole lot on this podcast since it started a few weeks ago. I'll give you what I like, what I don't like about this team, and kind of where I think it can go and what I think they need to do to get to where it is they want to go, which for you is probably the NCAA tournament. That next on Locked On Bearcats. Hey Bearcats fans, Alex Frank here with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. Get Upside. My listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now using promo code SCORE and getting a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up, so that's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account, so you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE for 50 cents per gallon, up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new year, happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Alex Frank here with you. And continuing the basketball conversation, I know I've been saying all week that I'm going to talk men's basketball, and I have not done so yet, but here we are. And, I just think this team, regardless of what happens going forward, Sunday's a big game in Memphis. Sunday's a nationally televised game on ABC, a chance to get an important victory on the road in an arena that has been a tough place to play for Cincinnati. A place they're very familiar with, and a place where they have had a lot of history there. But that's an important game. Every game in conference play matters. So I think what we're seeing is it is a team that is going to have to play really hard and is going to have to be a sum of their parts. The margin for error that's on this team is very slim. Why? Because there's no alpha dog on this team. There are a lot of players on this team that are talented. Jeremiah Davenport, David DeJulius, Mike Saunders Jr., Victor Locken, Mason Madsen. Those guys are all talented. But when push comes to shove, and we have seen this this season. Either a player on the opposing team, aka Jack Nungy of Xavier, or lack thereof from Cincinnati, Jeremiah Davenport not scoring a single point against Arkansas, the Bearcats don't have that alpha dog to take over a game. David DeJulius might be the closest bet. But in games, particularly in this conference, they need that. They don't have that right now. So what can they do? See, you look at teams that have won the NCAA tournament over the years, and I know that they have all been really good teams. But man, they had some alpha dogs on their team. Either one or two or maybe three. Does this UC team have that? I don't know. I think what happened was, see, this is a problem with not just Cincinnati basketball, but someone mentioned this to me, and I might have said this on an earlier edition of this podcast, but I'm going to say it again because it makes so much sense. Is oftentimes what we do in this city when it comes to sports is we live in the past. Unfortunately, that's not a good thing to do. Because either with the Bearcats, it's you expect to make the tournament, which this team might still do. I don't know. I don't think they will. I would not put money on them doing so. There's a lot that has to happen for this team to make the tournament. I think they have to go 15-3 or 16-2 in the conference. As we have seen over the years in the American Athletic Conference, if you don't finish 14-4 or 15-3 or 16-2, chances are you're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament unless you win the conference tournament. That's why both a regular season and tournament championship matters in this conference. So they matter in all conferences. Because if you win the NCAA tournament, and for some teams that's what they have to do. Some teams they have to win their conference tournament. But in the Power 5 conference of the ACC, the regular season championship probably means more than the conference tournament. Because if it comes down to Virginia or Duke, Virginia wins the regular season, that's significant. But Duke is going to make the NCAA tournament if they finish second, right? In this conference is, if you finish first, which Wichita State did last year, they were a bubble team for the NCAA tournament. So not only did a regular season championship mean something to them, a tournament championship would mean something just as much, if not better. Cincinnati's going to have to win all the games in this conference. What this team is. And This maybe was the case 3 years ago. This maybe was the case 2 years ago. Certainly last year. The Bearcats are going to have to win every game they're supposed to win in this conference. Beat the bottom feeders in this conference. And then you're going to have to maybe win a game or 2 or 3 against teams you should not win against. Like Houston. Like SMU on the road again on senior night for them, which would be, or I don't know if it's senior night for them, but the last game of the season for Cincinnati, that's not till March 3rd. There is a lot that can happen until then. They're going to have to maybe win a road game that maybe they're not supposed to. This Bearcats team can make the tournament. I've seen them play at their best. Now, that was early in the season. You hope they have not peaked. You hope they haven't peaked. Here's the problem. It's the expectations that you expect the Bearcats to make the tournament every year. That's what Bob Huggins' teams did. That's what the final 9 teams of Mick Cronin's tenure here did. The reality is, teams miss the tournament. You know how Cincinnati was ranked by CBS Sports' Matt Norlander as the 10th best program in the history of college basketball? Look, man, you want to know who else missed the tournament in 2021? I get it. It was a truncated year. It was a weird year with COVID. Here are the teams who missed the tournament that year. Duke, Kentucky. Yeah, those 2 teams are top 10 programs. Arizona did not make the tournament. Arizona is a historic program. You think their fans expect to make it every year? I think so. Cincinnati is not going to make the NCAA tournament every single year. Can this team do that? I don't know. I think what happened was we saw the first 4 games. And we said, this team looks pretty good. But let's see how they do against Illinois in the Hall of Fame Classic, a Big Ten team that was a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. A team that returns one of the best players in the country, Kofi Cockburn. They beat them by 20. That created expectations. I heard this yesterday with Chad Brendel from Bearcat Journal, good friend of mine, colleague. You probably get a lot of your Bearcats news from him. I won't hold anything against you. But he brought up a great point on Mo Egger's show yesterday. Mo Egger on ESPN 1530. He said that the Bearcats beating Illinois was good, but then it caused them to have to play Arkansas, and he said that Arkansas created a game plan to stop what Cincinnati does best, and other teams have copied it. This Bearcats team has a lot of flaws. They don't have an alpha dog. They cannot shoot the 3. They are not a very good free throw shooting team. They have a lot of flaws that they don't always do a good job of covering up. The Bearcats teams of the past did have flaws, but they did a great job of masking them, not being able to score or shoot 3s. They covered that with tenacious defense. You can beat this Cincinnati defense. We saw Xavier do it. We saw Arkansas do it. We saw Tulane do it with a 10 for 21 3-point shooting performance on New Year's Day night. This is a very flawed team. This team has a lot of talented players, but no alpha dog, and that is a problem. Because someone's going to have to step up. We knew this was going to be a rebuild year. The problem is, whenever something goes well with this program, or this goes for any team in this city for that matter, we start generating expectations. That's fine, but sometimes it helps to understand the reality of this team. They might exceed them. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to keep it real. More on men's basketball and what I like from Cincinnati so far this season next, here on Locked On Bearcats. Alright, so it's the new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure to include the Built Bar in your plan, because it makes it easier to stick to your resolution, because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or tastes like a chemical spill, and nobody wants that. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. By like week 3, we're already 1 week into the new year. By like week 3, you might be thinking, Alex, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? And I'm here to tell you that Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Not only that, Built Bars contain 130 calories, only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar and net carbs each, and they contain 17 grams of protein. So even if you're not a huge fan of working out, I know with all the sports going on right now, it might be hard to do that. You can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. So that way, when you enjoy a delicious Built Bar, when you enjoy one, you can almost count it as a workout. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Alex Frank here, finally getting into some men's basketball this season for Cincinnati, and there are some things I like about this team. I know I mentioned a lot of things that I'm concerned about. The lack of an alpha dog, the lack of three-point shooting, the lack of sometimes free throw shooting, which should be gimmies, the lack of offensive output. And this team, I think what you're seeing is if they don't get out to a lead early, if they fall behind like they did Saturday against Tulane, sure, they'll come back, they'll play hard, they'll dig themselves out of the hole, but they don't have the offense to totally make up for it. You know, even Mick Cronin's teams, which, you know, weren't the best teams offensively. There was a game his second to last season, the 17-18 season. They trailed Houston by 18. They came back and won that game by 10. They scored 80 points. That team could score when they needed to. I don't know if this team can. And if they do, it's often a struggle. But I think you have to remember that this is a Bearcats team that, yes, the reason why they're off to a decent start this season at 10 the reason why they're off to a decent start this season is because they are playing Bearcat basketball as we know. See, oftentimes a program, when you talk about it historically, a program or a franchise in professional sports, they have an identity that was formed under its most legendary coach. Bob Huggins is that for Cincinnati. Like, you think about identities in pro sports. The Patriots and Bill Belichick. The Steelers and Chuck Noll. The Ravens formed theirs with their defense. Now, they've only been around for 25 plus years, but still, they have an identity. Or you look at, you can name any team. Syracuse 2-3 with Jim Boeheim. Or North Carolina and the Four Corners with Dean Smith. Legendary coaches, and how their teams played. Cincinnati's identity was formed under Bob Huggins. And Wes Miller understood that. Wes Miller understands what this program is all about. He said that in his introductory press conference. That's when he won me over. But the one thing I promised myself I would not do is fall in love with him as a head coach right away. I did that with John Brannon. It was a mistake. Wes Miller, I said, okay, I like what he's going to do here. Let's give him a year. Let's give him a non-conference season. Let's give him a full season. I like what I'm seeing so far. There are some things I like. Mainly getting back to the roots of Bearcats basketball, because it does work. Virginia won an NCAA title with the way they play, pack line defense. They also had a good offense. But did you happen to see them win an NCAA tournament game 53-49 that year? They did. If you're a Bearcats fan, which those of you listening to this podcast are, you know what the Bearcats basketball program is all about. Defense, toughness, grit, physicality. This team has that. And it may not be fully formed just yet, but you're seeing it a much greater focus than it ever was the previous 2 seasons. That's why the Bearcats have a puncher's chance at the NCAA tournament. But what I also like is, I mentioned how this team is really a lot of, just a lot of role players on a team. There isn't that true alpha dog. Sure, Jeremiah Davenport's your best player. He can do an awful lot on the court. David DeJulius is the senior leader. He can do a lot too. But then you go down the current leaders in scoring right now. Mike Saunders Jr., Micah Adams-Woods, John Newman III, Victor Lotkin, Odio Guama. 5 players I just mentioned, right? They average anywhere between 5.4 points and 8.8 points per game. So what that tells you is they have a lot of guys who can score. In fact, that's 7 players total if you count DeJulius and Davenport. Then you got Hayden Koval, Abdul Otto, Mason Madsen, who has been injured a little bit of this season, AJ McGinnis, Jarrett Hensley, CJ Anthony, Sam Martin. So that's 14 players. At least 13 have averaged 1 point per game. And you look at games played. All but 3 have played either 13 or 14 games. That's significant. I'm sorry, all but 4. And Mason Madsen's been injured, so you can kind of exclude him from that. And 2 of them are also walk-ons, Anthony and Martin. What I'm seeing is, I'm sorry, exclude that statement of Anthony being a walk-on. Sam Martin is, though. What I'm seeing is, or CJ Anthony, I believe, is too. What I'm seeing is a team that can play a lot of guys. They have a lot of depth. And that's fine. It keeps guys fresh. And eventually, maybe that means an alpha dog will emerge at some point. Maybe this team's a late bloomer. I don't know. Do I think they've played their best basketball yet? No. But they play hard. Look at the rebounding totals. Abdul Otto is your 8th leading scorer. Or 9th leading scorer. Sorry, 9th leading scorer. And yet he is 2nd on the team in rebounding at 4.9 rebounds a game. Davenport's your leader at 5.1, tied at 5.1 actually with Victor Lotkin. Odio Guama is 4.6. Hayden Koval with 3.4. This team does not turn the ball over. They have 198 assists to 142 turnovers. They can block shots. They got 62 total. 4 guys with over 10 plus steals. So they do get after it. Remember how John Brandon wanted to implement 94 feet both ways? Wes Miller can at least do that, can at least account for the defensive end of that. This team shoots the ball well. Overall, 41.8. They may not shoot it well from 3. They're at 28.6. Woof. I like the way they compete. That's Bearcat basketball. They can run out 10 to 11 players per game, which keeps them fresh. And as you go into the stretch run in February, where you're really trying to build that resume for the NCAA tournament, that is going to be crucial. The thing is with this team is, are they built for the NCAA tournament? I don't know. I do know this. They're a fun team to watch. Because they know what they're playing for. They know the way they are playing. Remember last year, or really 2 years ago, you'd watch a John Brandon team and you ask yourself, what are they trying to do? What's their identity? Brandon can say what he wants this identity. Brandon could say what he wanted the team's identity to be. I never saw it. And I wanted John Brandon to succeed. Wes Miller, I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a team that plays hard. I know I'm going to get a team that is not going to be the best team offensively, but they're going to, you be a sum of their parts and find multiple different ways to score. There are times this season where the Bearcats can do absolutely anything they want to on the floor. That's great. They can score in bunches. They can rally back from deficits. If you remember, they were down big to Illinois in the first half of that game. So while they won by 20, they were down by double digits in the first half. And against Tulane, yeah, they were down 25. And maybe the long layoff between Christmas and New Year's had something to do with it. I don't know. I do know that their ability to rally and make it a single-digit game in the second half was crucial. And that is crucial for any young team's development. I've seen the Bearcats play well. If you asked me after they faced Illinois, I thought this team could make a run at the tournament. They've had some slip-ups since. But it is worth mentioning, it is worth pointing out that there is still a lot of basketball left to be played. 2 matchups with Memphis. I'm sorry, it might be only one matchup. I think it's only one matchup with Memphis. 2 matchups with Houston. Another matchup with SMU. And every game is an opportunity to get better. I know this. Wes Miller is not going to let this team not get better. He's going to make sure they do. He coaches with a purpose. And I like that. He's intense. He's competitive. That's what this program needs. Brandon is competitive. That was widely regarded. But he was too reserved. He always was like hiding something inside of him. Wes Miller isn't like that. Wes Miller wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's competitive, and he shows it. And the fire comes out in the team sometimes. We talk about teams being a reflection of their coach. This Bearcats team is. Can they do it consistently over the next 2 months? That is going to be the key question. And that concludes what's been a really good week here on Locked On Bearcats. Thank you as always for making us your first listen of every day. We'll be back next week. Plenty to get to. More men's basketball. The game Sunday at Memphis, we'll recap that. More football. Maybe mix in some, baseball. Exciting times in Cincinnati. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Frankie_Natty with 2 N's, NNATI. You can also follow me on Instagram, AlexFrank9_. And you can email me at alex3frank@gmail.com. That's all lowercase, alex3frank@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day once again. Now stay tuned to make your second listen of every day Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Bearcats men's basketball game on Sunday. Enjoy whatever else you're doing this weekend in Cincinnati or wherever you're listening to this. And thank you for supporting Locked On Bearcats. And until we talk to you on Monday, plenty to get to next week. Maybe some guests. Definitely some men's basketball and football talk. Until we talk to you on Monday of next week, have a great weekend and have a Bearcat Friday.